Alright, all you movie lovers, it's Friday. I know, a lot of you can't wait to hear what I've watched this week. You want to buy any apple pie? I'm cooking some next Friday. I'm selling slices of apple pie for $3.50 each. It's magic. The pie is magic. Anyway, somebody's talking about me. When you get itchy ears, or your ears are dirty, one or the other. Let's talk about the movies I watched this week. Alright. Netflix. You know that Netflix thing? Yeah. I watched that movie called The Highwayman with Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson. A movie about the two old farts that they get to go after Bonnie and Clyde. You know, they used to be, what did they call them? Texas Rangers. And I guess the Texas Rangers came to an end. But anyway, they hired Kevin Costner. This is all based on a true story. As anything in true stories or based on stories, you got to take them all with a grain of salt. Right? You know, there's real people involved in this. You know, Bonnie and Clyde were real. These two guys were real. So everything's real. These movies are all real, these characters. So what was real and what's not, what they thrown in there, what they didn't throw in, I have no idea. I liked the movie. I give it a 7. Oh yeah, Kathy Bates is in it too. She's playing the governor. Or the governor of what? Texas? Governor or someplace anyway. She's in it for a few minutes. She does her part well. She smiles nice. She really has a nice smile. Then she has a nice scowl too, you know, one of those. Yeah, she does that well. But anyway, she's good. Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson, yeah, there's supposed to be a couple old farts, right? Woody Harrelson's always, you know, getting out of the car. Well, what's his name? Kevin Costner's character picks him up and takes him along for the ride, right? They go hunt Bonnie and Clyde. It's a pretty interesting story. Woody Harrelson's always stopping for a piss. Right? Didn't you just have one of those? That's what happens when you get old. You have to have a piss a lot. Anyway, so I gave that a 7 out of 10. It's fun. It's a good movie. Based on a true story, true characters, and all that stuff, right? So take it with a grain of salt. I give it a 7. Alright, here's another one. TCM. This is TCM. You know TCM, yeah, Ted Turner or whatever. Come Live With Me, 1941. Hedy Lamarr. And Jimmy, I'm pretty sure it's Jimmy Stewart, yes. And Donald Meek, you know, Donald Meek, character actor. He's in a lot of movies. He plays a bum in this one, right? Jimmy's character, he's a bum too. He's a writer, right? He writes, you know, his stories and stuff, but he hasn't sold anything other than his furniture or his books or whatever he's selling, right, to stay alive. Anyway, so he's sitting on the bench, right, and Donald Meek's there, and they start talking and stuff like that, and Donald Meek's bumming money from people and stuff. So Jimmy Stewart's not really a very good bummer. So anyway, one thing leads to another, and there's a girl, right? There's this girl, right? And to move the story along in a roundabout way, right, without giving away any part of the story, she's a foreigner, right? She's here in the States, basically. And she, you know, got off the boat and stuff like that, and she's hiding. You know, they're looking for her, right? You know, she's 2 months behind on her immigration papers, and she's supposed to be sent back to wherever she came from. So, and there's this rich guy dating her, and him and his wife have a modern romance marriage arrangement, whatever the fuck that means. But anyway, he's going out with her and taking her out at nighttime and one thing. Anyway, the immigration officer knocks on the door, and, you know, she can't get away. And he tells her, you know, I'm coming back tomorrow to get you, you're being deported. And they're all there, well, what can you do? Anyway, he comes back, the immigration guy comes back and he says, well, you know, if you can find somebody to marry you and stay in the States, right, they won't bother you. So they got to find somebody to marry. She has to find somebody to marry her, because this rich guy's taking care of her right now, and she's living in a hotel room with a maid and all that, and I guess the rich guy's doing, you know, taking care of her and everything. Anyway, she meets Jimmy Stewart. One thing leads to another, and she asks Jimmy Stewart to marry her, right? And she'll pay Jimmy Stewart his room and board money for pencils, paper, cigarettes, all that kind of stuff. So they agree. They get married, and goes on from there. So It's a little bit of a, I guess it happens. It still happens today, you know. People get married just to stay in the country, right? It does happen. But this wasn't too bad of a story. It wasn't that great, but, you know, it wasn't bad. 1941, a good year for movies, but this basically wasn't a good movie. I give it a 6. It's all right, but, you know, if you've never seen it, you don't really have to seek it out. It's not a bad story, not a bad movie, but it only rates a 6. Yeah, so, you know, Hedy Lamarr, nice looking lady. Anyway, she's in it. So there you go. Let me see, what else was there? Oh yeah, TCM. The Irish Mafia boys together in a movie called The Irish and Us, 1935. You know the Irish? Yeah. Those guys. Jimmy Stewart. Not Jimmy, no, not in this movie. James Cagney. Jimmy Cagney. James Cagney. Pat O'Brien, and Frank McHugh. They've been in lots of movies together. Jimmy Stewart and James Cagney and Pat O'Brien did about probably 9 movies together, right? They're always making movies together. And Olivia de Havilland in it. So you got Pat O'Brien, he's a policeman, right? And you got Frank McHugh, and he's a fireman. And Jimmy Cagney, which is the younger of the 3 brothers, he's nothing. He wants to be a fight promoter, right? He wants to be a fighter, you know, promote fights. That's what he wants to do. And Pat O'Brien's telling him to get a job. He can get him a job as a policeman. And Jimmy doesn't want to get a job as a policeman. He just likes sleeping in the morning and eating apple pie. Anyway, Pat O'Brien has a girlfriend, the police chief's girlfriend, and that's Olivia de Havilland. She's nice looking. So one thing leads to another, and they go to a dance, or the policeman's dance, or somebody's dance. And but before that, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. She breaks down. Olivia de Havilland's character has a flat tire. I think that's what it was, if I can remember right. So James Cagney, stops and helps her, fixes her tire, and, you know, stuff like that. And anyway, they meet each other the night at their place for supper, and she sees Jimmy there, and again, right? And then they go to a dance, and Jimmy and Cagney and her, they kiss each other on the balcony, and Pat sees them and gets mad. So now Pat and Jimmy's character's brothers get mad at each other. So yeah, so how it ends, and so see what, you know, it's like what happens, like they're brothers, 2 brothers fighting and arguing with each other over a girl, right? So it's a fluff movie, you know, a movie that off the cuff movie, which is a movie that's not doing very well. So they, what's that word? They ad lib, you know, they put things in their conversations as they're acting with each other, you know, spur of the moment thing, you know, like you're stupid or you're ugly or something. But so they let that go in a few things, but overall it gets a 6 out of 10. The Irish, you know, it's 1935. So that's the ones I watched on TV. I didn't watch too many this week, TV movies. The other ones, let's see, I watched a few other ones. And I did watch a movie from 1945 called Our Vines Have Tender Grapes. Yes, Our Vines Have Tender Grapes. Starring Margaret O'Brien, Edward G. Robinson, and Agnes Moorehead. Yes, Agnes Moorehead. Can't forget her. She's the mother. She plays the mother in this one. And there's a little guy that lives next door, which is Margaret O'Brien's cousin. He lives on the farm next door. His name's Butch. Butch, what's his name? Butch Jenkins? I think so. Anyway, he's like 5 years old, and Margaret's character's supposed to be around 7, right? So they live in the farm, you know, they got a fireplace, you know, they put logs in the fireplace and stuff like that. And the father dots on his daughter, Margaret, right? And they're Dutch, I think they're Dutch community. I think it's Dutch. And so So yeah, it's just a simple little story about a couple of little kids and a school teacher that comes to town for a year, and a newspaper man that's signed up that he's going to be joining the army, and you got people living on a farm, and he takes his daughter to go see a circus that comes into town just to take her to see the animals. Simple little story. That's nobody's getting shot, killed, bumped off. Nothing. Just a little character-driven story about a mom and dad and their daughter, and the little guy next door, and people that they meet along the way, and stuff like that. So this one, I give it a good 8. Yeah, I give it an 8 out of 10. It's a very good story. So if you haven't seen Our Vines Have Tenure Grapes from 1945, story-wise, character-driven, it's a very good movie. So watch it. Edward G. Robinson. The other one was Rodin, R-O-D-I-N, Rodin. You know, the 47, Jesus, Bob. I always do this and I'm not prepared. What do they call them? Samurai? It's a 47 Rodin, true story, based on they couldn't protect their leader, so they had to take revenge a couple of years later, and they were all they did it themselves. They all did Harry-Carry. That's a different movie. There's a movie starring Keanu Reeves. That's a good movie too. But that's not this one. This is Rodin. This is Robert De Niro and Jean Reno, the French guy, from 1998. This movie's a little hard to follow, right? So it has the Irish in it too, right? And they're FBI, CIA, all these different characters. And some of them get together to rob these people or whoever they are of this suitcase, right? Like a silver suitcase. And they all get together, 6 or 8 of them. They try to rob these guys, follow them around anyway. And there's a lot of machine guns in it, and shooting and explosions and stuff, and double crossings and shooting each other, and nice car chases, though. Yeah, there's 2 or 3 car chases in this. They're really good. Really good. So, it's not a bad story. Maybe you can sit there and watch it long enough and figure it out and see what's going on and all that. But you got to pay real close attention. One of those movies, okay? So, I give it a 7 out of 10. It's a pretty good movie, but, what's that word? Nothing outstanding? Is that the right word? 1998, yeah, Rodin. R-O-N-I-N. I'm pretty sure that's how you spell it. Robert De Niro. Yeah. 7 out of 10. It's alright. But, that's it. Oh, yeah, here we go. Hannibal Rising. 2007, I'm pretty sure it's 2007. And this is in the beginning. Hannibal Lecter. Well, this starts off in Second World War over there in Germany and stuff, and he's living with his family. They get kind of like, they leave their big house, their so-called mansion, they go live in the countryside, right, like in a cottage. So the war comes to the cottage, right, airplanes, tanks, whatever. They, catch them in the cottage. Anyway, his mom and dad and his, maid or aunt or whatever gets killed, and there's only him and his sister, right? So him and his sister are sitting there now, right, in the cottage, and these 6 or 7 bad guys, this scum, right? They're German soldiers, they're Russian soldiers, they're whatever they are for the moment. They end up in the cottage, right? So yeah, so these guys kind of spoil the movie. This is like spoiler stuff, but anyway, it shows him as he's older and goes and visits his aunt and all that, and he wants to have revenge on the people that, I can't really explain it too well without giving it away, so. It's hard to do, hard to explain the movie, because it's spoilers. So other than spoilers, anyway, he wants to take revenge, and he heads off and he jumps the fence, the Russian fence, right, jumps the fence and runs off, and he ends up at his aunt's house, his uncle's wife's place. Yeah, and then he ends up going to school, which is to be a doctor, stuff like that. But it's a very interesting movie. So I liked it for, for what it was. And what would I give this? Hannibal Rising. I give it a good 7. It's all right. It's not a bad movie. It's pretty good. 7. Yeah. Give it a 7. Hannibal Rising, 2007. What's for supper? All right, and the last one, this one. Cinderella Man. Renee Zellweger. Zellweger? What can you say? I butcher everybody's name. Russell Crowe. 2005, made here in Toronto, yeah, downtown, down on Adelaide Street and Yonge Street and down with the waterfront and all that stuff. Here, made in Toronto, yeah. This is a very good movie for a movie-wise for what it is as a movie. But as anything based on history, true stories, true people, people that actually exist, you gotta take it with a grain of salt, right? Because everything in this movie, I shouldn't say everything, but there's a lot of things in this movie that are not true, right? That's not really true. It is, but it's not. It's Jimmy Braddock, right? Fighter. Anyway, 1930s, what do you call those? Depression days, you got no work, right? You had something, you had a nice big house and whatever, you're doing all right, and then a year later you're a bum, right? You're living down the street, you're eating corn for supper or rice or whatever, right? And your kids are starving and you're starving, you can't pay the lights and all that stuff. So that's what it is. And then he gets lucky and he gets a fight and, one thing leads to another, he gets another fight. And he ends up fighting Max Baer, right? So, with me, I wasn't around in 1929 or 1934, right? I wasn't reading newspapers or watching fights and all that. I just know today's stuff, what's going on today, and reading about history and all that. So, as they portrayed Max Baer in this movie, wasn't really true. It wasn't really him. They kind of, what's that word, embellishment? The movie, right? To make it, worse than it was. I don't even know what it was, whatever it was. But movie-wise, if you can forget about what really happened and how it happened and all that stuff, as a movie, just a movie, forget about history and true stuff and everything, it gets a 7. It's all right. It's just a movie. But if you want to look at history and all that, really look deep into it, right? Like I said, some of the stuff in here, as far as I understand, never really happened. Right? Not the way they portray it. Anyway, they portray, people in here as something which they weren't, I guess. There's a lot of other people out there that know a lot more about this topic than I do. So I'm just here talking about movies as anything else. Some stuff about history I do know too, but a lot of stuff about history I know nothing about. So, anyway, 7 out of 10 for the Cinderella Man. You can watch it. It's a good story for what it is. All right, people. Talk to you next Friday. Keep watching those movies. Watch the movies. Wolfcrotch, watch the movies. Mike? Yeah, keep watching the movies. James, which you never watch my channel anyway, but hope you're feeling better and keep watching those movies. Okay? And all you other movie lovers, if I don't say your name, it doesn't mean I'm not thinking about you. Enjoy watching movies and do whatever the hell you want in life. Just don't get caught. All right, that's what my mother told me. Bobby! You know what I say? I didn't do it. Or if I yelled up, somebody yelled my name, Bobby! I used to say, I didn't do it. It was my brother. Later, people. Love and peace.